Hello traders and welcome back to another market update. My name is Nick, and in today's video, as per usual, we're going to take a look at the currency market and see what's going on, what's hot, and what's moving, as well as some potential technical analysis that might give you some ideas to trade this week. So let's go ahead and jump into it. First of all, let's take a look at EURUSD, and what I see immediately is drawing this trend line here along the bottoms. You can see that price is currently testing and holding this area of support down here. Now, previously along this trend line, we have seen price hold very nicely. Buyers have stepped in here and here, as well as down in the lows, to push price higher. Now, it seems so far that buyers are holding this zone, so it should be interesting to see if we can make a rally from here. If so, one level to watch is, of course, that recent structure high. Just some general kind of structure there on EURUSD. We also have some support if we look left here along this area right here, right, as price is currently testing that zone, and looks like we may see some sort of further bounce for the time being, looking pretty bullish there on EURUSD off of that structure. Next up, let's take a look at GBPUSD. And if we look at pound dollar on the daily, what you can see is that we have a pullback starting here on the pound dollar. And if we look at the daily chart, of course, and we zoom in a little bit here and we highlight this level here, as I mentioned last week, I still like the concept of a pullback maybe to this 50% or 61.8 level, because it kind of combines up nicely with this level of previous level resistance, which could hold as a support. We also found temporary support there, and so there might be some buying demand down in this area if price decides to roll over further. That's really all I have there on pound dollar. The only other thing to mention, of course, is that we have recent structure high, and if price breaks out of that range, we could see a continued push to the upside. Really watching to see how strong this pullback gets and whether or not it gives opportunities for further pullbacks for buyers to look to get involved, or if we decide to rally higher soon enough. So let's go ahead and take a look at dollar yen. Price still choppy here on dollar yen, and if we kind of highlight this level here, you can see we are still finding ourselves at a ceiling right along the tops here on dollar yen. For the time being, we have not seen price break through that level, and if price does decide to break through, there might be some opportunities to trade the break, but for the time being, my bias is still to see some sort of downside, as we have seen in the past multiple times, just looking at that zone as a level of resistance. Brent crude is going to be our next one, which continues to chug higher. You can see we did make a nice push off of this structure low, as we mentioned last week. We saw price bounce off of this level, and we are seeing some continuation. The question will be this week, can we see some continued push on Brent crude, or are we going to roll over? If we continue, of course, we have some levels to consider as levels of potential resistance. We have this structure high. We also have the recent structure high, both of which could be interesting to watch. Now, this level also, this kind of shelf here, if we look left, I know that's not drawn perfectly, but you guys get the idea, right? You have this level of kind of a shelf previously that was tested right there, as well as right here, and may be interesting as price comes into it this week. Just something to look out for there on Brent crude. Let's take a look at WTI crude while we're at it, and you can see a very similar structure here on WTI crude, for the most part trending to the nice upside. You can see we also could draw this trend line, and if price comes back, that may be at this point a level of to look for potential value, right? Because price has been holding that zone very nicely. We seem to be in a nice little uptrend here, and we'll see how strong that can get. XAU USD is our next one. And if we take a look at the daily chart, this is really an interesting concept right now. Price is trying to break out of this trend line right here. You can see last week on Friday, price closed kind of bearishly, right? We had an initial push to the upside, but price closed out somewhat bearishly and unable to hold those gains. So as we come into this week, it'll be interesting to watch. If price decides to break out through the tops of that, then that might be a bullish indicator of continuation. However, for the time being, that rejection signals some potential weakness, and we may see some further drawdown. I think that my bias here would be to see a further pullback there on gold for the time being. But of course, as traders, we can be wrong. That's just part of technical analysis. You can only make your best educated decision rather than knowing things for sure. Euro GBP is our next one, and Euro GBP I really like on the daily chart, and I'll show you why. We have this kind of downtrend. We have these lower highs forming. We also have some fibs here that might be helpful. If you draw from high to low, you can see if price decides to retrace up to this 50% level, I'm really interested in that area, and I'll show you why. We have previous structure to the left, and we also have that nice 50% retracement in combination with that downward trend line, right? So that's three factors that could be in our favor if price decides to retrace there. Just something to look out for coming into this week. Aussie dollar is going to be our last one for the day. You can see for the most part, we've held this level of resistance very nicely. And as price pulls back, it's kind of a question of how far can we pull back. Now, there is a level that I've been mentioning here that I'd like to see how price reacts to. I think that price will likely come down to test that level at some point here in the future. And from there, that's really going to be our value, kind of determining our value there. Because if price can hold that level as a bullish support zone, then that's going to be a really kind of strong trend, kind of confirmation or continuation here on this Aussie dollar move. For the most part, of course, this level of resistance is still something we're watching as a recent high and should be interesting to see if it comes into play sometime this week or next week. Guys, thanks so much for watching today's market update, and we will see you next time.